In this video, I'll share with you what I did to improve my speaking in English. I learned English all by myself, and you can do the same. I want to help you because 1 year ago, I was exactly at the same point in life as you. I could watch videos in English, I could read books in English without too much struggle. I wanted to move to an English-speaking country, I wanted to have friends and speak with people in English, and I even wanted to create a YouTube channel. But there is always a freaking problem. Even though I could understand English, I couldn't say a word in English. Every time I tried to open my mouth, it felt like my English level was A1. You know, beginner level. And that's why I was scared to speak with people in English. I was even scared to write in English, because I thought that my writing is bad too. One time I was scared to send an email to an English speaker, because I thought that she's not gonna understand me. But then I finally came to a conclusion that I should start doing something with it, because I didn't even practice my speaking. Instead, I was just listening to English, and that's it. I thought that I was gonna learn English without practicing. It's like trying to learn how to dance by watching TikTok. And so I tried to do one thing at a time. First, I realized that my pronunciation is kinda bad. It was hard for me to speak because my pronunciation was bad. And so, before actually training my speaking skills, I trained my pronunciation. I did it by listening, learning, and singing songs. Sounds exciting, right? I was just listening to songs and then learning them and singing them. To be honest, I was bad at singing, so don't ever ask me to sing. But it was super fun and I improved my pronunciation. Because when you're learning and singing songs, you're just basically repeating after the singer. So you're learning the song and learning how to pronounce words in the song at the same time. And I not only improved my pronunciation, but I also improved my speaking. Because when you're listening to songs, you remember different phrases. And later, you can use them in a conversation. So I found singing songs extremely helpful to improve my speaking. And sometimes it's cool to use some corny line from the song in a conversation. And now every time I opened my mouth, I could actually pronounce things and even say something cool. And after that, a lot of people said to me that my pronunciation sounds awesome. And that motivated me to continue. I didn't just want to stop there. I wanted to create a YouTube channel and start making videos in English. So I had no other option but to continue developing my English. But unfortunately, all good things come to an end. It's cool to listen to music in English, but a lot of the times when I spoke to people, I didn't know how to structure sentences correctly. My mind would just go blank and I felt like I couldn't speak English at all. And music didn't really help me become better at saying things without making mistakes. Basically, my grammar was poor because I didn't know how to structure a sentence. I learned English in school for 8 years. And all these 8 years, we were learning grammar. We also learned vocabulary and practiced our English, but we still spent most of the time learning goddamn grammar. But it was completely fucking useless. School didn't help me learn English at all. And even though I spent a lot of the time learning grammar, I didn't remember anything about grammar. So I basically had to start from zero. And you know, I didn't want to learn grammar because it's fucking boring. So I thought, why not do the same thing I did with music and pronunciation? When I was learning my pronunciation with music, all I did is I repeated after the singer. So I thought that if I want to learn grammar, then I just need to repeat the grammar from somebody. I didn't really know how to copy grammar from somebody and then learn it. But then one day, I was reading a book called The Magic of Thinking Big. And this book helped me a lot, and I wanted to remember the advice from this book. And the best way to remember something is to write it down. And so I opened my notebook, and I wrote down the important information I found in this book. And so that's how I learned grammar. I basically read books, and then wrote down what I found important. And I was also listening to audiobooks and watching YouTube videos. And so I wrote down everything I found valuable in YouTube videos and audiobooks as well. Of course, I was writing everything in English, and that's how I improved my grammar significantly. And so after improving my grammar, I could finally speak. I remember that one time, I spent 4 hours writing a YouTube script for my video, and then recording this video for 2 hours in one day. The only thing that was left was to perfect my speaking, because I was able to speak. But a lot of the times when I spoke, I was still pretty slow and I had to spend 3 seconds to process information in my head and finally say something. Later in this video, I'll explain exactly what I did to practice my speaking. So stay till the end. So let's quickly summarize what I did to improve my speaking. I separated learning speaking into 4 parts. First part is comprehension. Comprehension means understanding. So it basically means how well you can understand English. If you can understand me, then you're fluent enough, and let's go to the second step. Second step is pronunciation. If you're bad at pronunciation, you can start learning and singing songs in English. I know it sounds kinda silly, but it actually works. And that is the reason why I have good pronunciation. If you don't like music and you prefer reading books, then you can start reading books aloud. I did a whole video about how to read books aloud, so if you want to, you can check it out. It is also a great practice and it can benefit your pronunciation tremendously. I'll put a link in the description. You probably have a question about how much you should practice pronunciation. In my example, sometimes I didn't even practice at all, and sometimes I practiced up to 2 hours every day. You can practice your pronunciation when you want to, but if you really have a bad pronunciation, then you should start practicing at least 30 minutes every day. It's not hard, all you have to do is start. If you want to be good, then you need to do what is required. But if you still speak like an Indian or Russian guy with bad pronunciation, then of course you need to work on it as soon as possible with no fucking excuses. And only then you can start speaking. Because if you speak with bad pronunciation, then you're gonna develop a habit of speaking with bad pronunciation. It's the same thing with bad habits. If you smoke every single day, then it's gonna be harder and harder for you to quit smoking. And if you speak with bad pronunciation, then it's gonna be hard for you to fix your pronunciation later. That's why you have to start with pronunciation. I still read books and I still listen to music because I'm still improving my pronunciation. I still have a lot to work on and I'm not just gonna stop there. If I were you, I would work ruthlessly towards my pronunciation, and only then I would go to the third step. The third step is writing and grammar. I'm not saying that you should open a grammar book and start memorizing grammar rules. This is bullshit, I never did it myself. Maybe only in school, but I forgot everything from school anyway, so yeah, I do not recommend learning grammar. And I do not recommend going to school. Instead, like I said before, I was just reading books and taking notes. I can show you some of my notes, I take them on a daily basis. And, after a while it became a habit and now I do it every single day. So every time I learn something new, I always capture it in English. And I want you to start doing it too. Because it's not just about English. It's also about your own development as a human being. A lot of people want to become successful, right? A lot of people want to make a lot of money, maybe even become famous, but they don't do anything to actually achieve these things. Every successful person, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, is gonna tell you that you should start reading books, start learning, start taking notes every single fucking day of your life. If you don't want to learn, if you want to be like everybody else and play some video games, then of course you're gonna have a shitty life. And guess what? You won't learn English. Because if you don't have discipline, if you don't want to learn something new every single day, then how are you gonna learn English? So when you spend time on learning something besides English, and you do it in English, you're gonna end up having better English. And that's what all these people were talking about. The lazy method. It's when you just watch everything in English and end up being good at English. It's a great way to learn English for a beginner, but you still spend a lot of the time on just entertainment. You don't write anything down, you don't practice anything. You're just basically sitting and mindlessly watching YouTube. When I did it for 2 years, I still wasn't able to speak English. Because I had to actually practice and learn, not just watch YouTube and movies. Like I said, just start learning. Start reading books or start watching educational videos. And start taking notes, so you actually remember information and practice your English at the same time. The last fourth level is when you can actually speak. First is going to be hard, but then with practice you will get better and better. Like I said, you just can't start speaking if you can't even write, or if you have bad pronunciation. You always need to improve your pronunciation, grammar, and writing first. And only then it's going to be easy for you to start speaking. So how do you actually speak? How do you actually start practicing speaking? Currently, I speak on the camera. That's how I polish my speaking. When you feel ready to start speaking, you have two paths. You can start speaking with your friend or native speakers. Or instead, if you don't have friends, if you're introverted like me, then you can start speaking on the camera first. So if you want to speak with a friend, you can go and speak with a friend or find a friend. I'm not gonna go into details because I don't practice that much with my friends. But at some point in the future, I'll make a video about how to find a person to talk with. Today I'm gonna focus on the second part, which is speaking on the camera. Because it's easier to start and you can do it literally when you want to. You can always grab your phone and start recording. The problem is, you don't know what to talk about, right? It's kinda hard to figure out what you should talk about. But I found a solution. You can always talk about your day. I usually record myself and practice speaking at the end of the day. And guess what? I'm always talking about my day. I'm literally talking and explaining what happened in my day. So for example, I woke up at 6 a.m., then I started working on my new video. Then, I did my morning exercise, then I took a shower. At 10 a.m., I started reading my favorite book called blah blah blah. Then this awesome thing happened and, I'm just talking about what happened. You can talk about what happened today and you can also tell stories. For example, you've met your best friend today and you had an awesome time together. You can just remember what you did together and tell it in a story. Or you can tell a story about how you cooked your favorite meal. Maybe you can tell a story about how you wash the dishes. I mean, possibilities are endless. You can tell a boring story, it doesn't matter, because you are here to improve your English. Imagine how many boring stories native speakers tell each other every single day. Honey, I woke up later than usual today. I made myself some coffee and I went to work. Blah, blah, blah. They tell these stories every single day. That's why their English is so good. And that's why I do the same thing. I basically grab my phone at the end of the day and start recording myself speaking English, telling stories for 10 minutes. Imagine you record yourself 10 minutes every day for 1 week. At the end of the week, you basically spend a whole hour recording yourself speaking English. How awesome is that? And I made it a habit and I do it every single day. I will even put a link to one of my recordings in the description so you can see how I train my speaking. So I think now you have a pretty clear understanding of how to improve your English. I try to do my best to give you all I know about how to speak better. If something is unclear or you want to learn more, you can always ask questions in the comments. I will always answer your questions and help you. I hope this video was helpful, and if you want to support me, you can always hit subscribe. See you in the next one.